Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men with power want? More power.
My name is Gianluca Zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
We're not afraid.
Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. Another Sunday, another show. And I'm grateful. I'm telling you, I'm grateful for many things. First of all, I'm really grateful in this life. Even when things seem like, a little tough, I tell you, I don't know about you, but I had the gift. And I call it a gift. Of course, I work hard for it, but sometimes doesn't mean that's going to guarantee you anything. The gift to be here in this country. After all, I wasn't born here. I was born in Rome, Italy. But, it was always a dream for me one day to grow up and to come to America and to become an American. And that's kind of, for many people still can become a dream, stay a dream. So anyway, I'm here, I'm grateful. But more important, I'm not just grateful because I'm an American. I'm grateful because also I live in the great state of Arizona. That is not perfect, don't get me wrong. The word state complies that pretty much it's made by humans. And humans, they're not perfect. So we always had to try to find a way to make it better. And that's why normally we try to work within the system, in the political system, that I believe it's what normally should try to organize a society. Lately, I must tell you something. I start to lose a lot of hope in all political system. And I don't want to sound extreme, but if I could choose between the federal government that we have no government at all, I'd rather to have no government. People say, oh gosh, are you an anarchist? No, honestly, I believe in small government. I believe in the constitutional form of this republic, that what's supposed to be. As I said, if I had to decide between a cancer and maybe cut the arm, I'd rather to cut the arm. Because what we have now, it's not a government. It's a tyranny. It's a destruction of our rights. It's what they are doing in our names. This is enslavement. Think seriously, what is it doing right now, the federal government, for you in your life? How is it, let's say, improving your life, your freedoms? Nothing. It's an harassment. Since 1913, we are pretty much under the mafia that at the end of the year, you must give them or whatever half or whatever you make, a good part, a good chunk, because the Federal Private Reserve say so, because they create money out of thin air. And of course, we must pay the interest with our labor, something we didn't have before. Of course, now we have unlimited, unconstitutional, endless wars around the world in our names, destroying country and rebuilding them with our tax dollar. Then we have a man acting as a president. He acts more like a Hitler, going around, giving away billions of dollars to other countries, how it feels like. Look at what happened with Obama in Iran, the 400 millions and then billions, this is insane. All in our names. Every one of us now, every newborn, I don't know how many thousands of dollars of debt. We have more than $20 trillion of debt. We have politicians that are not much different from little lords and kings, just because they know how to rig the system and get reelected every year. This is not a republic anymore. We are living now in an oligarchy. That's the reality. But now let's go back to the latest primaries in Arizona. First of all, I'm very thankful that it's over. It's good. I think it's always good to be involved, engaged, no matter what. As I said, I have not much hope in the federal government, what's happening in Washington. Only an act of God and a miracle can change it. Meanwhile, I still believe we have the duty, of course, to be engaged in our political system here, in our district, in our state, and more important, in our counties. So, whoever are the winners, I say, good for you. Even if I disagree with you, good for you, because at the end of the day, the voters, that's what they want. And I respect the decision of the voters. At the same time, I want to say even bigger thank you for all the new blood out there, all the new challengers, all the new underdogs. Is that the right word in English? Probably not. I'm just making it up. Whatever. The new challengers, the new people that they wanted to somehow create an alternative to the establishment. I say thank you even more, even if you lost these elections. This is just the battle. The war is not over yet. So I want to like to say, Mojave County, we had these elections. We have, for example, for county supervisors, all the, let's say, nothing really changed. Supervisor Watson, District 1, is still there. And, I have the biggest disappointment for him. I mean, I really don't like the man. I remember when he made arrest my old friend Jim Canelos, bless his soul, is dead now, just because he was wearing an American cap with an American colors in his front of his majesty. Of course, he made the county ordinance that you cannot wear, first of all, a hat in front of their majesty supervisors, and of course, you cannot wear a flag. I mean, not even Mussolini used to do this crap, you bastard. But anyway, Supervisor Watson, that's what the people of District 1 want. They want a little, want to be a tyrant like you. That's fine. Respect that. But anyway, congratulations for Mr. Jolly to try to at least challenge Mr. Watson. So Supervisor Watson is still there. Then we have, of course, Supervisor Jim Bishop, the most taxpayer-unfriendly supervisor that I ever heard. I think she should run for Democrat, in my opinion, because she's such a socialist when it comes down to spending our tax dollar. But guess what? The district here somehow voted for her. Okay, guys, I think you love the free cable TV or whatever, $30 more billion, 30 more million of tax dollar to put together the new county. What is not the county jail? Excuse me. The new county. What is that freaking building that she wants to build with $30 million? The county, whatever. It's a county building. I'm sorry, my brain is fuming today. Anyway, that's fine. What the people want, that's what you get. Same story, of course, with first of all, Supervisor Moss. I like him. I must tell you. Normally, I don't tell you things before, but I'm glad he got reelected. He's not perfect, but I think he's really good. And I'm glad he did. That's my personal opinion after the elections. As I said, I'm not trying to influence the before the elections. I'm just trying to tell you what I think, regardless. Anyway, so that's the story for the supervisor. For city, I don't care. I don't live in the city. I don't want to spend time on that one. Thank God I don't live in Kingman or in Bullhead. I live in the boonies, so I'm happy with that. Regarding the state, we have 2 state assemblymen and 1 new state senator. The 2 new states assemblymen, or 1 is assemblywoman. Of course, we have pretty much 1 new blood. 1 is new state rep Paul Mosley, that I really don't like him. I think he's some sort of, almost, and I don't want to be mean because he's a great guy. I think he's a great family man. But when it comes down to politics, he likes to use his morals in the political system. And I heard enough. He's very judgmental about other people. I remember when he talked down to another candidate, which is a woman, that just because she has no kids, she almost made her feel guilty. Why don't you fulfill your duty as a woman? What is that? Taliban? I mean, seriously. Anyway, but whatever. He's the man that the constituent chose, and good for him. Then, of course, there is the other one, the other state assembly woman, Regina, what's her name? I try to forget today everything. But anyway, she's just still there. Doesn't matter. She was elected 2 years ago, and she's still there. She's doing the same bad job she used to do before. Now, let's go to the state senate. There were a great race between former state senator Ron Gould and, of course, between also assemblyman that we know very well, Sonny Borrelli. Sonny Borrelli made it. That's fine, and that's great. As I said, what the people want. At the end of the day, I believe we have to have a voice. And it's fine for me. At the end of the day, I don't care. I care that people at least use their brain, hopefully, and they did what they wanted to do. Now, just one thing about wannabe almost senator, almost because he's not there yet, Representative Borrelli. You should almost, call me. Because I know you called the station just the day after a Sunday that we had the broadcast. Then I talk about you and what I thought about you and the recording that was published on the Arizona Capital Times. I think you got it a little bit too personal. And you talk about to the station and you wanted to talk about pretty much if I work for the station or not. By the way, I do not work for the station, but you got my cell phone. You can call me. And more important, you can come here on the show. As I said, I have nothing personal against you. I don't like the way you act as an elected person. I think you should have much more higher standard than us. But at that point, just call me. If you have a problem, please go ahead. I may call you today, by the way, maybe even during the show. Let's see if I can get your number. Anyway, regardless, that's the point. You want to go there. I mean, the people voted for you. They don't care about the way you are, and that's fine. The people will get what they deserve. And I hope, to be wrong, always. Now, let's go back to the federal elections, okay? Regina Cobb, sorry. Now, Regina Cobb was the name that I was trying to remember, and the lady who was running, and she won, of course, the re-election for state assemblywoman, okay? So that's my brain. Now, going back to the federal elections, we have an important, very important election for the Senate, U.S. Senate, and let's say the big challenger to McCain was former state senator Kelly Ward. And by the way, I'm not a fan, you know that. I think she's a double face. But regardless, this was about between McCain and Senator Ward. I think McCain is the biggest cancer really we have in our Senate. Not just for the Republican part, but in general. Is the typical example of the puppet of the military-industrial complex, of a globalist, member of the Council of Foreign Relations, a man that really, is hanging still to his head to his spouse service as a military, that, by the way, sucks. And I'm not saying that. Other veterans saying that. All you have to look at his record. When he was in the academy, it was the last of his course. I mean, he crashed at least a couple of airplanes. People died because of him. So anyway, but regardless, I don't want to even go there. The point is the politicians is the biggest fraud. And so much that on Facebook I said, somebody said, don't feed the machine. And I say, I agree. I'm never going to vote for McCain. I don't care if he's the only guy in town. I right to vote for Hitler. And that was, of course, an expression, let's say, sarcasms. But some lady, of course, a good Republican lady, said, how dare you saying that? That's not really American. And I told her, you know what? Who are you to tell me what really American is? I know I have an accent. I know I didn't go to school here, probably. I understand you got a complex that I'm maybe a little less than you are. But don't tell me what I can tell on this board. If I want to say McCain is a piece of crap, I will say McCain is a piece of crap. If I want to say I'm going to vote for Hitler before I vote for McCain, I will. And she started to say, oh, no, because McCain, we the Americans, we don't like Hitler. First, she was so stupid. It was an expression. I was trying to say something. But regardless, my point I was trying to make that I will never be forced to kneel down because, first of all, I don't belong to any party, number one. I burned my Republican card happily almost 3 years ago. And more important, even if I was still a Republican, I would rather to vote for a coyote in heat before I vote for McCain. But guess what? We have alternative. Thank God. And I don't say, I don't want to just waste the vote, but at that point, I would rather vote for a Democrat that I despise, by the way, before I vote for McCain, just to make a point. But we have better choices. There is also the Libertarian alternative. At least when it comes down to this McCain. All the people that they were voting for Kelly Ward, you have still a chance. Maybe you can unite with some Democrats and maybe we can start to push to the Libertarian Party. Okay? Anyway, let me shut up. I talk enough. At least I give you a little bit of what's going on. But the point is, the most important point is, kings, tyrants, and politicians come and go. And our struggle for freedom is eternal. Doesn't matter when and where. It will always be something like this. So we're here, happy, at least I'm happy, enjoying this fight and giving, I can't use some words on the air, but anyway, we will not give up, ever. Hey, Merissa Hamilton, are you there?
Yes, hello.
I hope I didn't freak you out with all this nonsense.
I don't think you could ever freak me out. I enjoy your show.
Okay, good. Anyway, no, and by the way, whatever I say on this show, I want to be sure, especially for the, let's say, opposition, McCain, or whatever, it is Luca Zanna's opinion, nobody else. None of my guests, just because they're on my show, they are responsible or connected what I say. We have our own first and last name, and we have our own ideas. So don't start to mix and match because Zanna, you think I'm kind of extreme, my guest with me. This is my opinion. Merissa may have different opinions, so that's fine. But anyway, Merissa, let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now with this U.S. senatorial race. Technically, on paper,
Sure.
we have only two names, right?
At this point, yes, because they haven't finished hand counting the write-in ballots.
Okay, what do we need? What numbers do we need here?
I only need 3,066 write-in ballots to be from Libertarians to be on the ballot in November. And it looks based on the numbers, they're hand counting 51,000 ballots.
Okay.
So that looks pretty good for me.
Okay. What's going on here? McCain is calling, I guess. He's already mad at me. Anyway, keep continuing, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, and we have somewhere between 25 and 30,000 registered Libertarians. So we still have to wait to see if the registered Libertarians showed up to vote. If they did, then I'm on the ballot, and I will be Arizona's Liberty option for U.S. Senate. And I am also the only private sector person running for U.S. Senate. Both of the other candidates, Ann Kirkpatrick and McCain, are well-established politicians.
Very good. So this is great. At least you gave us a chance. And I say out there, please, don't follow the orders of your party. I hate when people say, okay, now we must unite because after all, we are better than the other side. No, don't be an idiot because you're exactly the same, if not worse. You tell me now in McCain, is there any difference in what he's doing from a Democrat? And the sad thing, you want to believe that Kool-Aid and go in front of the mirror and repeat yourself, oh yes, it's a conservative, he's a conservative. Look at what is done. Don't look at what he says. By the way, what he says is bad enough. Don't get me wrong. So anyway, you're here, hopefully. I don't care if I have to write you in as a write-in. I say in front of God today, I will never vote for McCain, even if there is, I don't know, on the other side there is the devil. I'm not going to vote for anybody at that point, okay? So that's the point. And I hope other Republicans out there understand that this is an opportunity we have in our state of Arizona to start a peaceful revolution. Break the ranks from the Republican Party. The Central Party can go to hell. We will use our brain and our heart. That's the bottom line. We are not your slaves. S-H. That's all I can say here. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm really I get really passionate when it comes to that. I don't even want to call mad. I just let it go. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about you. Now, what you can offer if you had to face, let's say, this challenge against McCain and against Mrs. Ann, what is their name? Kirkpatrick? I forgot. The Democrat?
Yep, Kirkpatrick.
Kirkpatrick. So why are you going to be different from those two other politicians?
Well, from my experience working in the private sector as a business professional for the last 15 years in the food service, supply chain, and technology industries, it became very apparent that there's really only one power system politically in America. They have two brands, the Democrats and Republicans, and I call them the Demopublicans, but there's one power system. So when we look at all the rights that we've lost through the years, all the times that the government completely, blatantly ignores the Constitution, and even the times that our politicians have funded or armed our enemies, like we've seen McCain do frequently, as well as the Democrats. We have lots of evidence that Hillary Clinton's done that also. And Obama. That's a huge difference between what the Libertarian Party offers. Running as a Libertarian, my party holds me accountable to principle and solving problems by finding ways to have more freedom instead of less. And so that's a huge difference from what the Demopublicans offer, because they look to solve problems based on basically giving themselves more power and then creating more problems for them to campaign on in the future. Yes. They make a ton of money in their campaign process off of keeping problems or not solving problems. So, for example, illegal immigration and the border. That's something that could have been solved years ago, decades ago. But they keep it as a problem because they make a ton of money campaigning off of it. Same thing with abortion. We have solutions now that can solve those challenges today also, but they keep it as a problem because both parties make tremendous amounts of money off of this issue. And so that's the difference with libertarians. Libertarians, I say, can solve any problem because we're backed by the ingenuity of the free market.
Yeah, another thing also, first of all, McCain and also the other side, they really say out loud, they don't want to solve the illegal immigration problem. They are for complete amnesty. And so much that McCain, he goes out there to the La Raza, the most racist group called The Race. For the race, everything. For outside the race, nothing. That's what they say. And he goes there, he gives speeches. So it's not like, oh my God, He's not even faking it. Yeah, once in a while he goes out, they say this BS about, oh, we're going to build a damn fence or whatever. That's just BS. Nobody believes that stuff. But my point is, McCain, you are a fraud. Only a blind person on drugs maybe can believe half of what you say. That's the reality. And for all the Republicans out there now, I feel pity for you. You're going to vote back for him after you being somehow sane, at least admitting it after how many years? All these years finally waking up, not because Ward was better, but at least on paper for the average person that has no clue, he has a little better chance than McCain to make sense. No. Now you're going to vote now for McCain. I feel sorry for you. You have a little bit of dignity. I think you do. And I really don't vote at all, seriously. But if you want to vote for McCain, what can I say? That's your choice. All I can give you here, at least an alternative. And it's not even anymore about the Libertarian Party. I think it's at least some different, fresh blood, a different person that is not a professional politician, that at least on some basics, I know what you say, and of course we need to see you in action, but I know the Libertarian Party has some fundamentals. The Bill of Rights is the first fundamental that normally in every libertarian platform comes first. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, we actually start with the Declaration of Independence with the statement that we have inalienable rights. And then we go to the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights then help to define specific rights, just in case the government got confused as to what inalienable rights mean.
Yeah. I mean, for example, the Patriot Act, okay, that is the structure, the first really good dagger in the heart of our Republican Bill of Rights, thanks to at least Mr. Bush, okay? And then you have, of course, the confirmation of this tyranny coming down with Obama, with the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. And I want to repeat myself over and over, but the part that pretty much destroys every due process. And now we live like, not anymore in a country with the process. We are before pre-Magna Carta. They can throw you a butt in jail, not even in jail, in the dungeon. And definitely, just because you're suspected. Now, me and you, Merissa, just because we're talking things that could be suspected to be, let's say, at least we criticize the government, okay? Right there. People can really disappear. This is not a conspiracy. It's a fact. And much, much more. So anyway, all I'm saying, I could never vote for anybody who supports this type of travesty. So I hope and pray the people of the state of Arizona, for the first time after 30 years, electing that clown called Senator McCain, finally, they got some senses. They stop thinking with the party. They start to think with their brain and with their heart. That's all I can say. And you are there, at least you're trying. I'm sorry, I wish you had more money behind. I wish you had more something, but at least you put in your face out and you give us a chance to do not vote for Mickey Mouse. That's what I would vote for, seriously, if I have you. And normally I don't say what I vote for before the elections on the station, but this time I will say, I will never vote for McCain. I will never vote for what's her name. And at that point, if there is a libertarian option, I will get that without even thinking. I'll give you the floor.
Absolutely. So, and I even look at, recently I've called Donald Trump Arizona's golden calf. And that's because what we're seeing is that people are looking to the same old politicians. And I consider Trump as one of the same old politicians because he's funded the duopoly for the last 3 decades. And so he is part of the result of what we see today. And they constantly just, every single law that they put in place is to seek more and more power from the government and take away more and more of our liberty. And even when you talked about McCain being with La Raza, we see the same type of pandering coming out of our presidential candidates also. Trump literally went to Mexico, said that we need to make the hemisphere great again. That's a direct quote. Make the hemisphere great again, that Mexicans are great. Flew to Arizona, then talked about building the wall and how awful Mexicans are. And then his Latinos for Trump stood up on the news and said something about the fact that if we don't vote for Trump, we're going to have taco shops in every corner. I love tacos and guacamole. To me, I was like, yes, let's vote for Gary Johnson so that we can have taco shops in every corner and maybe have enough competition that we could get free guac. It's ridiculous the type of pandering that these politicians will do to the American people and Arizonans especially, because everything that they say, a fence and whatnot, that's not going to solve the problem. And if people go to my Facebook page, it's at Vote Merissa Hamilton, they will see that I have a comprehensive border and immigration plan to actually solve the problems that we have with more freedom and not less. And we can do this while respecting immigration. You're an immigrant. My family is a family of immigrants. And I think that it's critical that we respect our heritage, especially with the Statue of Liberty, and while at the same time keeping America safe. And we can do both, and we can do it without amnesty, we can do it without deportation, and we can do it with much better ideas than just simply building a fence, because that's already ineffective because the drug cartels have their tunnels and drones and planes and all the other methods that they work around our border fences that exist today.
Exactly. I mean, the point is, listen, there are many ways to stop the problem. The point that both parties want this reality. Even they try sometimes to do a little bit of a show. They need it. The Democrats, they want it for their new reality to have new voters to destroy this republic and transform it in a democracy. The Republicans, of course, they want to try to pander it the same way. More important because, after all, the real Republican Party, the Central Party, the headquarters, the Bushes up there, they want to destroy the sovereignty of this country. They want to create a new world order. How do you do that? Like in Europe, you need to create a new mud race. And I didn't create this term. That was from Mr. Kalergi, who wrote a book about it, how to create the mud race, the new type of, let's say, Third World War country race. They want to destroy the sovereignty, the identity of each nation. I believe in natural migration when it comes to always supported by a system, by the government, not the government, by the nation, to assimilate the people. You know, I mean, and also when there is an immigration that is not, let's say, inflated by the social welfare system. When you came to America 200 years ago, you came here, or you live or you die. Okay? If you can make it, that's great. Otherwise, you pack, you come back home. That's the idea. But now you come here, all you gotta do, start immediately with the welfare, house assisting stuff, and then you got coupons, then you get food, then you get kids stuff. I mean, it's insane. And more important, there is not really anymore, at least when it comes to this type of situation, a will to assimilate. Take some time and some love, in my opinion. But anyway, regardless now the immigration, that I think is very important, there are also many other issues. For example, Syria. These international conflicts, they are no wars. They are not declared by Congress. They are unconstitutional act of conflicts, okay? McCain is everywhere. I mean, McCain is being photographed with ISIS. We know proof that this administration is being financing ISIS. Even the Pentagon has admitted it. And now, we had to go there to fight the terrorists that we created the same first time. I mean, now we have given weapons to Al-Qaeda, that, by the way, is a CIA creation since the 1970s under the Carter administration. And then we fight ISIS that we created anyway. It's a joke. So I think the Libertarian Party has the right vision when it comes down to at least what we're supposed to be. We're supposed not to go around building and destroying countries. What is your position about Syria and all these different conflicts that McCain wants to bring us in?
Well, the thing is that we played a very strong role in creating the problems that we see in Syria, especially with the humanitarian crisis, by arming the rebels and basically going over there and bombing everything constantly. And I think that now, and we've done that completely with the purpose of having this humanitarian crisis on our hands. And so at this point, I think that we need to go back to being non-interventionists. We need to stop making the problem worse than what's already there. We need to follow our Constitution. But at the same time, I don't think that we should just be mass importing people. But if we just went back to our original standards of immigration that we had before, which was an intense security check and a health check, and you're done, we wouldn't have a huge humanitarian crisis either in bringing refugees over, because the system itself would work itself out. And so I think that we need to pay attention to what's happening. We've created a lot of enemies around the world with a very irresponsible foreign policy for the last several decades, and we need to be accountable for that. So that means not necessarily having open borders or just letting anyone come into the country, but we also need to recognize that our current immigration system has created a black market, and that's the reason why we see the illegal immigration today, along with things like our drug policies have created a black market there. So we already know what doesn't work based on what we have domestically. And by trying to apply that internationally, we've just seen it's been disastrous.
Yes, no, I understand. And I tell you, this is my little way to say I do whatever I can, like you're doing whatever you can. Because sometimes I still believe, and I know, honestly, I know that the odds are against us. I mean, the machine is huge. Like, for example, I knew already that probably Representative Borrelli was going to win against former Senator Ron Gould. I don't care. For me, this is not the point to come here on the station and try to side myself with the winner or to try to get points and become more popular. I couldn't care less. At the end of the day, at night, I got to go to sleep. I got to look myself in the mirror before I brush my teeth. And I hate to spit myself in the mirror because after I have to wash it. And I don't like it. So I have my dignity. And I'm here. All I can do, even when I make mistakes, even when I do things probably that I'm not very cautious when I talk, or maybe I get a little bit passionate. By the end of the day, I tell you what comes from my heart. Know what comes really convenient to me. I know very well probably I'm not going to get invited to the next Republican Christmas party. Anyway, I didn't go even before. Or I'm not going to get a special card, a thank you card from the local politicians that got elected. Or I'm going to get special whatever invitation or favor or cell phone number. I don't care. Okay? I always follow my heart. And whatever I tell you guys here, even if you agree or not with me, at least I'm honest to myself. Now, before I forget, one thing very important I want to say regarding the local elections for sheriff. We have, must congratulate ourselves to Mr. Doug Schuster. It seems like he's the new Republican candidate for the sheriff, probably the only candidate. I don't think there is anybody else on the other side. And that's the bottom line. I wanted just to be sure I didn't forget anybody. Now, we are on the phone here with Merissa Hamilton, running for U.S. Senate against, I don't want to say against, first of all, for the Libertarian ticket, as an alternative to Mr. McCain, Senator McCain, and of course the Democratic ticket. So we have an option. Merissa, when it comes down to something that really freaks me out, and I think that both Republicans and Democrats, I think they're doing the same. For example, the war on drugs. Can you explain in a few words what is this war on drugs? I think it's a war on freedom, in my opinion, but what is your position on this?
Sure. Well, the war on drugs was basically a cute term that they coined to create a black market for the drug cartels. Mm-hmm. All that it's done is it's basically the government saying that they have the right to control what we do and don't put into our bodies. And I myself, I've never done drugs. I haven't even done pot or I think I smoked a cigarette once in high school. I'm very health conscious, and so I don't participate in any of that. But for people that do, that's their choice. Exactly. And the government has no right to dictate what they do and don't put into their bodies. The other piece of it, which I think is really what's more behind the war on drugs, is that many of these drugs, especially marijuana, for example, have medical benefits that benefit not only adults but children, and we're finding are actually cures to many of the diseases that we see today. But because they compete with the pharmaceutical industry, and the pharmaceutical industry is primarily who funds not only our media but also both political parties, they want to keep the war on drugs alive. All it is it's a big way to waste a bunch of money. It's a way to really enslave a good chunk of America, because 40% of our jails are filled with people that simply chose to put a substance into their body and for no other reason. There was no victim. So if there's no victim, there should be no crime.
Exactly.
And
you know what is
sad?
I
think we need to end...
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I think that we need to end prohibition completely. It's created so many problems. It's created the problems that we see on the border with immigration. It's created a challenge with having a black market that's made Arizona very unsafe. I would argue that it's not illegal immigration that makes us unsafe, but it's actually the black market on drugs that makes us unsafe. Most of the crime that we see in Arizona comes directly from the drug cartels. Even the gang crime that we have in Arizona comes from the drug cartels. If we were to end regular stores like we do today, it would actually be safer for people to partake in marijuana or any other substances than what we have today, because they'd know that they're getting the pure substance. They'd know exactly how much they can take to have the results that they're looking for. And from a medicinal perspective, then doctors would be able to prescribe these things accordingly and actually help heal their patients rather than all the crazy, ridiculous side effects that the pharmaceutical industry provides.
Yeah, and another thing very important, seriously, and like you, I don't smoke. I don't even like to stay close to the smell of marijuana, okay? And any other drugs. I don't even take Tylenol. I think the last time I took an aspirin was probably about 10 years ago, okay? But that's not the point. The point is this: as a free human beings, we should not become criminals just because, first of all, let's say I want to have a plant in my own home, in the safety of my own house. I like to, let's say, if I wanted to have a plant like marijuana, just to stare at it, I shouldn't become a criminal because I have a plant. Nobody dies. There is no crime, as you said, and that's ridiculous. Number one. Number two, I can drink wine, I can drink beer, I can drink whiskey, I can drink all this stuff that I can enjoy them or I can abuse them. And if I abuse them and I endanger others, I should pay. That's a fact. That's why we have DUI laws. Why we shouldn't treat the same way people who want to enjoy, for example, a plant. If you want to get high on a plant, that's your right. Just do it at your home. And I don't even want to hear about the permit and the little card. I should have no card as a human being to drink a bottle of wine. If I want to get drunk with my wine, I will drink my wine with or without government consent. In the same way, people should have the same freedom to do it if they want to smoke marijuana, if they want to smoke hashish, if they want to smoke sage. That, by the way, you can get high on sage. Terrible, by the way, I heard. Now, don't give the idea to the government because they probably put it out law. So that's the point. It's about freedom. It's about we are now pretty much slaves, like what we were talking in the past about the seat belts, because the government says so. There is no crime, there is no victim, but guess what? Or you jump or you go to jail, because we say so. We own you. That's the bottom line. So I hate the idea that somebody who wants to smoke marijuana in the privacy and safety of their homes without endangering others, they have to become criminals. They have to watch over their back, and also the chance to lose their property, because that's what they do. They confiscate your property, these bastards. And more important, then you gotta ask them back for a little card and pay your fee, and then pay this marijuana through the dispensaries that probably they overcharge you anyway. It's impossible to think. But anyway, let's change 1 second topic. CPS, Child Protective Service. I've been following you, and I'm very glad, regardless the politics and the Libertarian Party, whatever, as a human being, as a woman, you took very much to your heart this topic. That it's not just a basic agency from our tax dollar. No, it's much more. In my opinion, it's an abuse of power. It is completely a destruction of our due process. And unfortunately, there is power without check and balance. There is tyranny. Tell us the latest news of what's going on with these child protective services. And more important, we were talking last Sunday about a tragic story about a family of a few little, I think 5 or 6 children, that they were kidnapped while they were staying in Nevada. These people are from Arizona. I give you the floor. You can talk all about CPS now. Hello? I think I lost her. Wow, that was great. Little break and I'll call you back. Stay there. Don't go away. Okay, that was a little break, and we are back now with Merissa Hamilton, Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate in these senatorial elections. And now the topic is going to be about the Child Protective Services. Merissa, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now. I give you the floor. I want you to educate us as much as possible what's going on with this agency of the Child Protective Services in Arizona in general. And then, of course, a little bit of updates from that tragic situation with that family that had their 6 children kidnapped, in my opinion, while in Nevada. But they are from Arizona. Go ahead.
Sure. So the situation with Arizona CPS, here it's called DCS, actually, Department of Child Services. It's become a very extreme, an extreme trampling on our rights. Essentially, we have no more parental rights. The laws in Arizona have created a system where Arizona can basically take your children from you and terminate parental rights based on hearsay. And the reason why those laws exist is because the federal government, through it was actually a bipartisan law from Hillary Clinton and also Newt Gingrich and the Republicans, to create what's called the Adoption and Safe Families Act. And what this does is it funds the government, funds the states. It actually incentivizes them to take our children. They get bonuses anywhere from $4,500 to $8,000 to take our kids, and then they get paid every single month from the federal government to keep them in their custody, and then they get additional bonuses for terminating parental rights and adopting them out. Now, across the country, the numbers show that the numbers have actually decreased by around 20%, but in Arizona, it's increased by 80%.
Wow.
And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see that just for the one bonus for adoptions, Arizona went from getting about less than $500,000 in 2008 to now they get nearly $8 million for that one bonus.
Wow. That's scary.
So that's an increase of over 1,300%. And some other stats that are important to know is that 85% of children in the country are taken for neglect. Neglect has a very broad term. It can be simple as CPS coming into your home and seeing that you have dishes in the sink. That's not an exaggeration. They also are able to take, they've taken some kids because the cat litter box smelled like cat litter. Just simply because you have a pet, they've taken your children.
No, wait a second. One second. Say again, because maybe sometimes I'm kind of slow with my English. What is about this cat litter story?
So the last mom that I worked with, they stated in court that the reason for taking her children was because that she was considered neglectful because the cat litter box smelled like cat litter.
Yeah, I mean, that's what cat litter is for. I mean, they smells like cat. And normally you clean it once or twice a day. Depends how many cats you have. That's insane. I heard something also about the dish. There's dish stuff. Is it true?
Yes. So if you have, with the laws are subject to basically the social worker's discretion. So if there are dishes in the sink, and you can actually, there's a former CPS investigator, Carlos Morales, I think is his name, that's actually that's a whistleblower that's talked about the issues that he was required to take children. And one of them was dirty dishes.
Oh my gosh.
We also had a grandmother that lost rights of her grandson because they said she had a low credit score.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not even the slaves during the kings. The king that pretty much decides when he wants to take something that is yours. In this case, the most beautiful possession. I'm talking about no money. I'm talking about your life, your DNA, your blood, a child. I mean, that's insane. Seriously, out there, people you may say, oh, I know it doesn't apply to me. I'm fine. Guess what? First of all, you never know. Number two, doesn't matter. I mean, if these things are real, and I know are real, I did some research myself, by the way, not because it's not happening to you, means that we should just stay silent and mind our own business. This is disgusting. This not even belongs to China or Cuba or some other countries like that. This is supposed to be America, for God's sake, especially the state of Arizona, that normally we still have some basic rights, like the right to keep and bear arms without government approval. I think that we should also have the right to raise our own children without the fear of some parasitic, disgusting, low-level human being prey on our children, and just because using this completely out-of-control legislation can make your life miserable and destroy the future of a family. That insane. I don't know, at least my show is just a little humble local 3-hour show weekly, okay? I wish I could have more energy and more time, because this is probably one of the most important way they can destroy our family and can destroy the next generation. Because like Cuba, like China, like Italy during Mussolini, if you want to create a new country with a new tyrannical government, you must control the youth. So the government will take control of the youth in this way also, not just through the school system that is a fraud, it's a re-education camp in my opinion, but through now also this forced, let's say, kidnapping, legalized kidnapping. They can take your children out of you and they can re-educate them according to their beliefs. And not even going to what they can do, sexually abusing them, and drugs, medication, that really it's illegal in my opinion. Tell us a little bit about stories. Because I know there are stories that people have been abused, children have been abused.
Yeah, so foster children are actually 7 to 8 times more likely to be physically or sexually abused if they just stayed with their parents. They're also 6 times more likely to die in state custody than if they stayed with their parents. Sure. And they are 3 times more likely to be put on the psychotropic drugs due to the financial incentives the drug government gives to drug our children. So recently we actually have two really extreme cases going on. The first one is the Shores family. The Shores had their case dismissed earlier this year by a judge. The judge dismissed all charges, returned all of their children to them, except for one, actually, the oldest child they kept in state custody. The remaining children were all sexually and physically abused by the foster home that they were in, and the parents were having to try to rehabilitate them this year. Well, Arizona was upset with the fact that they won their case. They went to Nevada with invalid paperwork, meaning that it wasn't actually approved by a judge, and gave it to the Nevada police. They didn't know the difference, that the paperwork wasn't invalid. They went to the house. They actually took the children by force, and there's a audio that you replayed on the video last week of the children screaming in complete terror and panic, saying, "They're going to kill us. Don't let them take us. They're going to kill us," because of the extreme abuse that they went through under the foster care home. And the CPS worker told them they were going back to the same foster care.
Oh my gosh. I remember, by the way, we play part of the video. And then I remember that you told me, by the way, the video was taken down. What happened? Did you find out exactly what happened?
Yeah, the video was moved to YouTube so that people would be able to have more access to it. And they also released the full version of the video.
Okay, what I'm going to do this Sunday, I would like to, if you can send me to me again, the new link. I will post this video on the homepage of lovegunsfreedom.com. And then, of course, when I create a dedicated page for today's show, I will leave it there permanently. And I hope more people are going to get educated. And how can we change this? Because I'm not trying to talk about these things here just to freak you out. Yes, that's the first layer. If you don't freak out, means you're not getting it. Okay? If you think everything's cool and peachy, you're gonna go back to your life and watching football and drinking beer. I mean, you can do that after you realize what we are facing right now as a nation, as individuals also. So the first thing we gotta freak out, say, "Oh my God," and then say, "What am I gonna do?" Yes, what you're gonna do? You're gonna call your state representative. I'm not even going now to Washington. We're going straight to Phoenix. We have 2 state representatives and 1 state senator. This is supposed to be number 1 topic. Regardless if you are Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, this agency should never have that type of power to destroy a life of a child and destroy a family. Never. That's the bottom line. Supposed to be some still due process. I believe that there are cases that for sure families, they are somehow damaged and the child must be protected. That's fine. But that's another story. We are going from an extreme to another one. Must be always a due process.
Yeah.
Okay?
In this case with the Shores family, 2 years ago, one of their younger children had a brain aneurysm. And the state tried to say, and had a brain aneurysm while they were in the custody of a babysitter, and died. Oh. And so the Shores had to not only mourn the loss of their child, but then the state came against them, accusing them of abusing their children, of sexually abusing their children, and created all of these just fanatical arguments, accusing them of being on drugs and all these other things. When all their drug tests came out clean, they kept the kids, tortured them basically, and then the judge dismissed everything. The state wanted to exert ultimate power and say, not only do you not get to have a fair trial, but even when the judge does give you your kids back, we're going to come against you again for the very same charges all over again. So on Wednesday, we're actually going to be having a parental rights rally in front of DCS at their Durango office. Yeah. The information is in an event on my page. People can go to it, and I highly recommend everyone that cares about parental rights to come out and join. If you can't, then please make phone calls to the governor's office, to Greg McKay, the head of DCS, and then also your local legislators, and I'll be posting that information available on the page too. The other case I wanted to talk about, which is the Smith family. Now, the Smith family, their situation is a medical kidnapping situation. Their daughter had a horrible situation happen, and it was so rare that it had never been reported ever occurring. And so, and I don't remember the exact medical term. It's a long word though, but you can go on medicalkidnap.com to see the site. They proceeded. She wanted to get the daughter survived that incident, and so they wanted to start doing medical experiments on her. She asked instead to get a second opinion from a hospital that had more expertise in California, and Arizona denied her request and then took away her parental rights. She fought against the state, and out of revenge, they started drugging her daughter.
Merissa, one
they
second.
then took her.
Just because she wanted to have a different opinion, medical opinion from the main doctor, that's what was the reason why they took away her parental rights? I want to just be sure I got it down right. Wow.
Yes, she wanted to get a second opinion, and they said, you don't have the right to get a second opinion. We're taking guardianship over her.
Gee. Oh, my God, this is so...
They then...
Unbelievable. I mean, sometimes, I know because I've been verified these things, but still I'm in state of shock. And the fact that it's happening here in the state of Arizona, it freaks me out. And I want to say something also. Remind us a little bit your website, because you mentioned before, go to my webpage, how they can contact you. People wants to find more about you. Go ahead, please.
Sure. My Facebook page, which is where I have most of the details of these stories, is at Vote Merissa Hamilton, and Merissa is spelled Merissa. And then my website is marissahamilton.com.
Very good, very good. Now, this is such an important topic that you're touching, that I can see how many thousands of lives being destroyed, and in the years, millions of lives. Because this is not just Arizona, there are many other states, the same situation, maybe same or less, doesn't matter, but the same dramas. And I'm telling you, it's like a nightmare, I mean, I can see when you're in that type of world, it's a nightmare. And how can people defend themselves? Is there a way through the legal system you can at least have a chance to stop if they're trying to do such a behavior against you or your children?
It's very difficult because the way that the federal government has incentivized the states is that they have a whole separate court system called juvenile court, or the nickname is kitty court. The caseworkers are allowed to use hearsay against you as a reason to take away parental rights. There's also a law that if the state has your child, if your child is under the age of 3 and the state has your child for 6 months, they can take away your parental rights simply because the child's been in state custody for 6 months, regardless of whether you follow the case plan or not. And then if the child is over 3 years of age, if the child's in their custody for 15 months, then they can take away parental rights.
Oh my
now,
God.
the case plan itself takes longer than that to go through. And in the situation of the last mother that I was working with, she not only followed the case plan, successfully completed the case plan, but she did an additional 20 extra services on her own.
Wow.
Just to improve herself. She was already a good parent to begin with. And the state ended up dismissing all charges against her, but still took away her rights and severed parental rights, and they're trying to adopt her child out now simply because of that law that states because the child's been with the state for 15 months, it's been the best interest of the child to sever parental rights.
Wow. It's pretty amazing. This is a complete, I mean, I don't know. It shocks me a lot, this stuff. I'm telling you. But guess what? It's time for the people of Arizona to do the right thing. I say, first of all, don't believe what we are saying. Do your own researches. See what type of travesty they're really doing using our tax dollar. And then you don't need to be a doctor or a PhD or something or any type of political activist. You just become a regular person. But guess what? You have rights. You call your politician that you send down with your tax dollar to Phoenix, and you start to tell him what you learn. And you start to say, you better understand what's going on here and get up with the plan. Otherwise, we're going to make it as a priority. We're going to find every way to at least make your life miserable as a politician if you don't do something to stop these crimes. That's what I'm saying. Simple as that. After all, I always remind, it's millions of us and few hundreds of these parasitic bureaucrats out there, and even less in the state of Arizona. Our politicians, they're really a small number. Supposed to represent us. Let's tell them what we want to do. We don't want to have our children kidnapped by some state agency out there. Simple as that. Okay? All right. You made me really now get my blood pressure going, especially I have no coffee. The last 2 days I had my coffee machine broken. So between that one, and I apologize if I sound a little bit up, but without caffeine, normally I drink at least 6 cups of coffee, espresso every day, and I've been almost 36 hours without coffee at all. And then I hear this news, I'm freaking out. That's all I can say. But anyway, I'm fine. Merissa, I give you the floor. The last 2 minutes to close.
Sure. I would ask that people out there go and do the research yourself. I have a lot of the facts presented on my website and my Facebook page. But recognize the fact that we as citizens, the state is supposed to work for us, not us work for them. And the way that they look at it is that they own us. That essentially that we as citizens and as parents, that we're not allowed to actually have control over our own bodies or even be able to raise our children as we see fit, that they basically like lease our children to us. So join us on Wednesday for the parental rights rally. If you can join us in Phoenix or call your legislation. Even let's just say that the numbers are extreme. Even the fact, though, that they can take your children over hearsay, or they can take your children just because the state has them in custody for so long. This is a corrupt system, and it needs to change. And it's only going to change with we, the people, standing up against this. And, I'm from Arizona. Our state traditionally loves freedom. I think that this is something that most people don't know about. But it's time for the citizens and parents to rally together to demand that we get our rights back, that the state doesn't have the right to remove our liberties.
Yes. And I want to thank you again for what you're doing to educating us, because I know I learned a lot of things just following your post lately. And I want to say everybody out there, beyond politics, beyond the party we belong to or whatever, this is something that should belong to every human being, every family. Please, let's work together for this one. Now, if you want to support the show, there are many ways. One way, of course, you can go to zannacoffee.com. And don't make me mention the word coffee because I'm really freaking out. But please go to zannacoffee.com, the best organic coffee out there, and drink as much as you can. Life is short, don't be cheap. And then, of course, if you want to enjoy some of my music, you can go to zanna.us, www.zanna.us for just 99 cents. You can download any of my songs. Now, Merissa, I'm going to be in touch with you, especially for these elections. Keep us posted if you're going to be on the ballot. Regardless, we can still use the ink to write whatever we want, correct? Please spell your first and last name.
Absolutely.
Spell your first and last name.
Sure. My first name is M as in Mary, E, R as in Roger, I, S as in Sam, S as in Sam, A. And my last name is H, A, M as in Mary, I, L, T as in Tom, O, N as in Nancy.
Very good. All right. And dear guys and ladies, you've been listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. We look at Zanna. This is the first hour. We're going now in hour number 2. Interesting news and legislation about guns, gun rights, and some training. And then we go hour number 3. Incredible guest. It's going to be very fun. Don't go away. And thank you for listening, for putting up with me. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. We'll look at Zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Lucas Zanna on United States.fm network.